All right, so we got how did each Primarch react to the Edict Council of Nikaea? Ooh, Nikaea? Ooh, how do you say that? Ooh, how you say that? Let's get to let's go.
Guys and gals.
Oh, by the way, man, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, bro. We are on the way to 9,000 subscribers. I really appreciate everybody for all the support. Let's get right to it. Let's go.
The Council of Nikaea was probably the most pivotal moment pre-Horus Heresy that determined the outcome of pretty much everything. It greatly weakened the Loyalist forces and pretty much ensured Magnus would fall to chaos. It was a huge L for the Imperium with absolutely no upside to it. I've already made a video about the Council itself, little card in the corner for those that want to watch that, although I will recap it briefly in this video. But I didn't really go into how each of the Primarchs reacted to the Council and its outcome. Some Primarchs were indifferent, some Primarchs were happy, and some Primarchs are really upset. Some decided straight up to just ignore it, and not just Magnus. I bet not many of you know that a Loyalist Primarch instantly discarded the ruling and allowed their psychers to continue their works. Before we get started, we know Manscaped by now. I mean, you'd bloody hope so with how much they sink into marketing. An innovative brand of
Manscaped, hit the, hit the email. I just, why not, our channel's growing, we get some views a day. We average, I don't want to like say a number, but we average some views in a day. What I think it'll be good for your brand, as a small, content creator, why not? Shout out to Manscaped, yeah.
Actually present for it. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Here we go, y'all. Let's go.
Before I get into the individual reactions, what actually was the Council of Nikaea and why was it such a massive L for the Loyalists?
All right, let's go.
Basically, it was all about the use of battle psychers in the Space Marine Legions, the Librarians. Magnus, the Khan, and Sanguinius had come together to form the Librarius, strictly trained Space Marine psychers who were to prove to be the biggest fucking asset to the Great Crusade ever.
I'm gonna keep it real. A Space Marine psyker sounds a little bit diabolical. And when I mean diabolical, I meant like in the sense of like it sounds cracked. Like that sounds very like overpowered. Like that sounds very, breaking the scale-ish.
Many battles were only won due to the Librarians, as there are many enemies in the galaxy that are immune to everything except psyker powers. The first demon forms that were faced during the Crusade were only overcome due to Librarians.
That sounds OP.
However, a number of Primarchs were staunchly anti-psyker, most notably Mortarion and Leman Russ, despite the latter having more unofficial psychers than most other legions. They saw psychers as dangerous and more of a liability than an asset. They had been campaigning for years to get the Emperor to ban the use of psychers in the Legion, which mostly fell on deaf ears. However, there was an incident during a compliance where the Thousand Sons used their psyker abilities to incapacitate some Space Wolves, before one of the Thousand Sons then turned into a Chaos Spawn. This, combined with the fact that the Emperor was concerned that Magnus was delving too deep into Warpcraft, caused the Big E to call a conclave to determine the future of the Librarius.
Ooh, okay. So basically, we had one problem, one malfunction, and all of a sudden, everybody and their mama all of a sudden, it's like okay. I understand. Okay. I'm going to keep it real. I don't think they should ban it. Even though that one situation happened to where like a psych or whatever, like went into the chaos or whatever, or like that psyker basically like becoming like chaos-ish or whatever. I'm going to just keep it real. It was, now, here's what I'll say. If it was a bunch of psychers, or if it was a bunch of like, what do they call it? 1,000, what was it? 1,000 Sons, whatever. Now, if a bunch of 1,000 Sons, like psychers or whatever, turn into the chaos or whatever, I'm going to keep it real. And then we got to nerf it a little bit. Like now it has to be, now we got to, we kind of got to like calm down. And maybe, we can allow like 5 like psychers on like each squad or whatever. But at the end of the day, it was only one type of, like, it was one situation. I don't think that, that that's too much. And also, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Man, he got the diamonds on. He got the rubies and the diamonds on, bro. He really flexing right now. He got at least, if I can really pull out my magnifying glass, let me just, he got what, at least 20 some mil on. I mean, He's flexing, I like it.
Officially, it was called the Council of Nikaea, but most people thought of it as the Trial of Magnus the Red. The trial ended with the Emperor getting the ick from how passionate Magnus was about warpcraft, as well as his blatant use of warp sorcery. The Emperor was also working on his magnum opus, the Human Webway, and believed that by banning Psyker powers, he would be able to keep the pissed off anti-Psyker Primarchs happy, as well as keeping Magnus from doing anything reckless. In reality, Magnus was to disobey the Council pretty quickly and break the Webway anyway.
Dumb. We knew this. Hey, we knew this. We knew this was gonna happen. I mean, obviously, that's like, you know, part of the story. You know, Magnus being dumb, he got finessed. All of a sudden, you know, the little wegway or the little subway, whatever you want to call it, that thing just got broken into two. Every demon started flying out. Magnus, that was your fault. At the end of the day, I just feel like, I don't know, like the Emperor was right to like shut Magnus down, even though, like, you know, he could definitely see if he was like really passionate about it. You could be passionate about something, but like if you're really passionate about something that's extremely risky, like risky towards other people, then I'm gonna be honest with you, bro, I'm shutting it down too. Not gonna lie.
Whilst Mortarion would go on to become one of the most powerful traded Primarchs, so yeah, not exactly a dub. There's a bunch more lore surrounding it, but as I said, already made a video, so let's get into the reactions. First up is the Lion, who had a pretty interesting attitude towards his Librarius. He was happy to employ Astarte Psykers as they were powerful and a very useful asset. However, he also distrusted them due to his instincts, as well as growing up in a forest full of warp monsters. When the nuke incident with Luther occurred, which then caused the Lion to banish Luther back to Caliban, he sent most of his Psykers back home as well. The Lion was one of the few non-Psyker Primarchs who was able to tap into his inner warp power and kill warp-based creatures with his sword. Hence, he wasn't totally reliant on having Librarians with him like other Primarchs would be. However, when the heresy broke out and demons became commonplace, a Dark Angel who used to be a Librarian broke the edict and banished a bunch of demons. Instead of punishing him, the Lion saw that things had changed, and the edict was now obsolete and outdated, so he officially renounced it until such a time that the demonic threats were gone and the Emperor could be
I'm gonna keep it real. As much as I can stand this man, his armor is tough, man. Hey, as much as I can't, bro, I can't seem to even fathom and just, I'm not gonna hate too much. His armor is fire, bro. He got one of the best like looking armor within the entire Warhammer, just everything. Like, bro, his armor, like this color right here, bro, I don't even know, like, bro, what color is this? What color is that? Like, man, bro, I wish he was just ugly. Like, man.
broken with. He even ended up killing one of his greatest loyal Dark Angels due to that angel's refusal to allow the Lion to renounce the edict. Not the Lion's finest moment, but you should know better than to tell the Lion no. Fulgrim wasn't super passionate about the Psyker topic, but was known to be cool with Psykers despite the fact that his legion barely used them, and I genuinely can't recall a single Emperor's Children librarian prior to the heresy, or even during it. This probably has a lot to do with how high the 3rd Legion valued martial prowess. Being a Psyker would probably just disqualify you from that ranking, hence many of them probably suppressed it. Fulgrim also had no Psyker abilities prior to merging with the demon, and the non-infected Emperor's Children gene seed was known for its purity and lack of mutation. Fulgrim was actually at the Council of Nikaea and secretly relished the humiliation of Magnus, although he pretended to be empathetic to him. Despite being one of Magnus's closest brothers, Perty was actually very anti-Psyker. That is probably due to him having a stiffy for iron all the time, with Psyker powers kind of going against all the tenets of iron and its unbreakability. After all, it would be pretty humiliating for a Psyker to turn an Iron Warrior into a bunch of bubbles and then pop them all. But Perty takes this one step further because he is a spiteful asshole. The dude literally created a super advanced warp device that would have greatly enhanced Magnus's ability to travel the warp. He then showed it to Magnus before smashing it in front of his brother to make a point about not diving into the warp and being a lot safer about it.
I can't lie to you, bro. If I'm Magnus, bro, I'm dropping all my belongings and I'm throwing my hands up like this. Bro, how dare you take time out of you? You know how much of a hater you gotta be to make something for somebody and then be like, hey, yeah, so I made this thing that can actually really help you out, but before I even give it to you, you destroy it and says, yo, this is why you shouldn't do it. Bro, I'm gonna keep it real, bro. After you destroy it, I don't want to hear it, bro. Everything you're saying to me is not even like registering here, bro. Bro, I'm gonna have my fist up like these. We're gonna go to the back. Bro, we're fighting somewhere, bro. Something gotta give. There is no, oh, well, this is why you shouldn't do it, and this is... are you Coco for buku buffs? Like, bro, what are we like smoking something that's really illegal? What's going, like, are we not fathoming what's going? Why would you take the time out of your day to build something for me and then bring it in front of me and then destroy it? And then try to have like some type of like long, like Edgar Allan Poe type of novel to try to talk to me. No, there is no talking after. It's straight manipulation and beef.
So whilst Perty wasn't happy to hear about his brother getting humiliated, he was happy for Psychers to be banned. Jagadai had probably my favourite response to the Council of Nikaea out of all the Primarchs. He was basically like, this is retarded. I choose to ignore it. Straight up, Jagadai just saw through the council as the Emperor trying to get Magnus to chill out while appeasing Russ and Morty, which is exactly what it was. If Magnus had returned to Prospero and then continued some basic psyche use, such as healing people or rapidly growing trees and shit, there would have been no issue. It's because he broke the webway with warp sorcery that he was punished so badly. Hence, Jagadai basically just ignored the edict and continued allowing his librarians, or Stormseers as they were called, to continue their role and use of the psycho powers. The Stormseers were very strict in how they used the warp, hence had pretty much no risk of corruption. They saw the warp as a part of life and the soul. To ban it was just ridiculous. Jagadai was one of the founders of the Librarius and put in most of the safeguards regarding how far they could go. Magnus wanted to go balls to the walls, no limits, but the Khan saw the danger in that. The current Librarius in the setting is pretty much exactly what Jagadai had intended from the start. Leman Russ was obviously pretty stoked about the ruling as it was the result he wanted. He was present at the council but kept his presence hidden with the Sisters of Silence as to not piss off Magnus. The second unofficial reason was if Magnus lashed out, Leman would be the one there to kill him. Now people often ask, are rune priests actually psychers? After all, they claim to draw their power from Fenris.
Is he like a Viking like version of like, I don't know,
the warp. Hence, despite the Council of Nikaea, Leman continued to use his rune priests openly. Well, the answer to that is yes. It's clearly stated in the law that rune priests are just as much as psychers as the Thousand Sons. However, they only skim the surface of the warp and have a lot of rituals in place that make corrupting a rune priest very difficult. Obviously, you can see how hypocritical this is. Leman literally gets Psychers banned and ends up being one of the only legions who continue to use them. To be fair, Leman would go on to regret the Council of Nikaea, seeing it as a folly that hurt the loyalist cause, although he still believed Magnus to be in the wrong and some level of sanctioning against him was required. Rogal Dorn didn't have a strong opinion on Psychers. He had a Librarius prior to the Council, however after the Edict he immediately
Hey, when I was a Warhammer new booty, I thought this was G-Thug. I thought this was always G-Thug at first.
Imprisoned all of his librarians, which seems like a massive overreaction. However, there turned out to be a pretty interesting reason. At first, it was purely to contain a potential threat within the Legion. After all, Dorn had fuck all knowledge of the warp, and suddenly hearing Psychers were dangerous concerned him. However, when the heresy broke out, his reasoning changed. He kept them imprisoned as a secret weapon. If shit got bad, he had a full intact force of librarians he could deploy at a—
That's smart. Yo, I'm gonna be honest with, I mean, first of all, keeping them in prison is crazy, but like having them as like a backup, that's smart.
Moment's notice. Conrad and his legion detested warp sorcery and even exiled their chief librarian, so they were happy to obey the council's edict. However, as the heresy broke out and the Night Lords lost cohesion and Conrad went insane, their standards slipped, with various Night Lord psychers beginning to embrace their power. Sanguinius was one of the founders of the Librarius and was upset about the results of the edict. He was present at the council and showed a lot of empathy to Magnus. However, Sangi is loyal AF and obeyed the edict until the Battle of Cygnus Prime, where the Blood Angels were ambushed by the forces of Khorne and Slaanesh. All sense of rules and doctrine fell out the window as the Blood Angels fought with everything they had. The Librarians were instrumental in winning the battle as they brought Sanguinius back from a coma with their combined power. After Cygnus, the edict was forgotten within the 9th Legion. Ferris was openly anti-Psyker for a lot of the same reasons as Perturabo. Their strength was iron. They were engineers of logic and physics, two things the warp didn't work well with. As such, Ferris was glad to hear of the edict, but wasn't overly passionate about the subject like some of his brothers were. Angron actually had a really wacky and kind of fun attitude towards librarians. Like he fucking hated them, as being in their presence would cause his nails to bite deep and hurt like a bitch, but he still used them as he recognized how much of an asset they were.
Bro, you know how much like discipline you gotta have to like use something that works, but at the same time you hate it? Oh man, it's kind of like exercising.
The World Eater librarian saving his—
No, okay. I like to like play sports. I don't like to be in a gym just lifting weights. That's not my like style or whatever. I love like playing a sport or whatever. That's more of my style. That's why I say exercising.
Life on more than one occasion. When the edict was announced, Angron thought it would be funny to ignore it as his own person telling the Emperor to eat a dick. Tragically, Angron would go on to massacre his librarians upon ascension to Demon Prince, but his initial reaction was to continue to allow them to be used without issue.
Oh, bro. Yo, he just got rid of he just got rid of him. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. If I'm Angron, bro, and I got these damn nails, bro, sinking into my brain, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. It's over. They're GGs.
Prior to the council, Guilliman was happy to use librarians in his legion. However, as soon as the edict was made, he instantly dissolved the Librarius and reabsorbed his Psyker Astartes back into being line troops. However, after the Wordbearer attack on Calth, Guilliman renounced the edict due to how much it weakened the loyalists against the traitors' warp weaponry. Overall, a very pragmatic approach to it, similar to that of the Lion. Morty had been anti-Psyker from day one. As soon as he took over his legion, he immediately banned the use of Psyker powers and dissolved the Librarius. He actually spoke against Magnus at the council and was a smug asshole about the final result. However, despite this, he ended up joining the side of the warp-loving sorcerers before then embracing his warp power and eventually becoming a demon. So yeah, good work Mortarion, you fucking idiot. What? I swear all the Council of Nikaea did was make Lehman and Morty look—
Wait. Where's the goat?
Like the biggest hypocritical morons in the entire setting. Magnus was the most pro-Psyker of them all. Probably too pro-Psyker to be honest. He wanted absolutely unrestricted access to the warp to explore it in its entirety, something that the Librarius was actually opposed to. The edict devastated him and he promptly ignored it and resumed his warp sorcery. He used warp sorcery to try stop Horus from becoming a traitor, then he used more warp sorcery in an ill-fated attempt to warn the Emperor. Magnus's foolishness would go on to cost him most of his legion, his world, and his very soul.
Yo, Magnus, you just selling. like, bro, you are a merchant. You're just selling, bro. You're the best businessman of all time. All you do is sell.
Horus wasn't particularly fussed about Psykers either way. The Lunar Wolves had barely any Psykers as it wasn't really their way of war, and when the edict came out, Horus was happy to obey it. However, the warrior lodges continued to practice warp sorcery in secret, which it's implied that Horus knew about. When Horus fell to chaos, the edict became irrelevant to him. Lorgar was an interesting case. He did possess some psychic ability, but when the edict was announced, Lorgar's idea of creating an order of chaplains to enforce purity and the edict's ruling was put into practice, so he was pretty happy about that. However, Erebus and Corferon continued to practice warp sorcery in secret, which Lorgar didn't seem that bothered about stopping. Lorgar would later go on to become a powerful psyker during the heresy and was happy to engage in warp sorcery in his quest to find the Chaos Gods. Vulcan didn't have a particularly strong opinion. He was happy to have a Librarius, but upon the edict was also happy to dissolve it. Corvus was an—
See, this is why he's the greatest of all time, because he thrives whether he has one or he doesn't. It doesn't really matter to him. He's the greatest of all time. See, I knew it, bro. See, me and Vulcan, bro, we're kind of like on like the same like wavelength. Bro, if I had a librarian, oh, that's great. If I don't, oh, that's great. Like, what do we talk? Like, bro, it doesn't matter. Like, to him, it really doesn't. Wow, like, Vulcan, you're so, like...
a similar boat to Vulcan. However, taking it a step further, he believed Magnus had gone too far with his use of the warp, so he was happy to see him humiliated and put into his place. Corvus did have some innate warp power, with a number of his sons also having the warp ability to wraith slip, something Corvus continued to encourage after the edict. Alpharius is always a hard one to nail down in terms of reaction. They were happy to use Psykers and then were happy to dissolve the Librarius upon the edict. During the heresy, whilst they did bring back their use of Psykers, the Alpha Legion as a whole didn't seem to have many. Surprisingly, most Primarchs were actually happy to use Psykers, with only 5 of the Primarchs being anti-Psyker and only 2 of those actively campaigning for the banning of Psykers. Contrast that with the 13 Primarchs who were happy to use Psykers, with 3 or more of those actively campaigning for the continued existence of the Librarius, and it doesn't really make sense. Overall, a huge L by the Emperor and pretty weak writing by GW. It was more so them creating something out of nowhere to antagonize Magnus and weaken the Loyalists, rather than a compelling and complex plotline. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support—
shout out to our boy Majorkill, man, for this one. I'm gonna keep it real, bro. I'm with Vulcan on this one, bro. It don't matter if I had one, if I didn't have one, bro. We're gonna win regardless, man. Comment down below. What do you guys think about it, man? If you guys were like a Primarch or whatever, would you guys have a Psyker? Would you not have a Psyker? Are you guys against Psykers? Whatever, man. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 9,000 subscribers. And I'm going to see y'all next time out. Peace out.